All right, welcome to episode 11 of TML Weekly. As always, brought to you by Bjorn and Don Cherry Sports Bar and Grill. So first things first, on an unfortunate note, there's a passing of a young hockey player in Montreal this past week. Do one of you guys want to take it away?
Yeah, in respect to the family, they're not releasing a lot about this. At the end of the day, 11-year-old kid in Montreal, I think, definitely in Quebec, was killed in practice. Kind of sounds like he took a shot. He might have been in front of the net, and some of those kids can fire the puck at that age for sure, and got him in the neck, and he unfortunately didn't make it. Now, I just I want to make a point of saying that thoughts and prayers from us at the show here to the family, to not just the family of the kid that passed away, but all those other kids that were out there when it happened, and their buddy didn't get to go to school the next day. It happens. We're involved in a sport that there's a tremendous amount of risk, but it doesn't make it any easier. I don't know what could have been done different. The kid had a neck guard on. It wasn't a slice or anything like that. It was an impact thing, which could happen at any level, right? That could happen at the local rink at midnight on a Friday night with a bunch of guys playing pickup hockey, or it could happen in the National Hockey League, and certainly at the youth level. But I just thoughts and prayers with the young fella's family and coaches, and members of that organization that have to kind of now pick up the pieces and really worry about the entire mental health of anybody that's involved. Just tough. I went back and forth in my own world here, trying to figure out how to explain this to my 9-year-old but I did. I told him, and I said it was something that obviously was an accident, and there wasn't any malintent or anything like that, but you have to be careful, right? People shoot the pucks hard, and it's a tough game. So tough way to start off here tonight, guys. But certainly we need to mention things like that, nothing much anybody can do about it, I don't think, but move on and remember the kid, and do what we can to honor his memory. So, get back into our Leaf stuff. John, we got a text from John last week that he and his daughter, Cara Grace, were fortunate enough to be invited to, I think it was a Columbus game. I'm going to let you take it away here, but sounds like a pretty cool experience.
Oh, John, it was fantastic. So, but before I get into too much, I just want to send a special shout out to the Maple Leafs organization and the Ford Fanatic. If you're not following the Ford Fanatic on Twitter, do yourself a favor, get on there. If we can win tickets to go see a Leaf game, I guarantee you can. It was. I'm not going to tell you guys. It was a fantastic experience. My daughter and I do, for those of you that don't know and don't follow, you should be following Coach's Corner with Cara Grace on YouTube. We do a weekly show on Saturday nights for Leaf games where we talk about the Leafs and what's going on. And I give my 2 cents, but mostly people tune in to hear what Cara's got to say. She's the star of the show. And we got picked up by the Ford Fanatics Twitter page. And next thing you know, I've got a direct message from the Maple Leafs and Ford inviting Cara and I to go to a game in the box. And it was Wednesday night in Columbus. And while the first 2 periods of that game were amongst the worst 2 periods of hockey I've ever seen, I got to say the experience in the arena and the way we were treated by Ford and the Maple Leafs, just absolutely first class, fantastic all the way. So huge thank you to them. First and foremost, above all else. So a sincere thank you to them. Diving into the game, those first two periods, it was you can call it a trap game. You can say that we were, under the weather and we weren't feeling well and the flu was ravaging the team, and all of those things can absolutely be valid and true. It was still the worst two periods of hockey I can recall seeing in a very long time. And goaltending wise, I'm not going to say anything that's going to shock anybody. Samsonov looked like he was playing, for the Oakville Blades provincial junior B. It was a suspect performance all the way around. Guys scoring on pucks from behind the net. The coach looking like, he's not ready to make any decisions on what to do. Asking the goalie coach what he thinks, and the goalie coach is apparently saying, leave him in, let him battle. To me, those first two periods, I looked at it and I thought, you know what? The coach's job is to put the team in the best position to be successful. I don't think he did that. Now, that third period, we looked like the Russians in 72. The puck was on a string, and we were, Valery Harmelov passing the puck back and forth. It was unbelievable. I sat there and Kara and I were watching the game, and I said, Kara, if we can get one quick, we're back in it. And the first one went in, the second one in, and the third one went in, and we still had 10 minutes to go. And that team in the third period, guys, I've got to ask the question: how can we be the same team in that third period, and then the team that scores 7 goals against Pittsburgh and maybe plays the best game I've seen them play in 10 years, 2 nights later? How can they be that same team that showed up that first two periods? I don't have an answer for it.
It's hockey. It's a game of swings. It's a game of momentum. It's a game of bounces and luck, and all that stuff comes together. There's not a team in history that hasn't had a bad period or a couple bad periods and then figured it out, or a bad game or a stretch of bad games. I totally agree with you. It was awful. I still think their Nashville game was better than the Pittsburgh.
Okay.
But they were just dialed in, man, and they didn't have look at Domi and how he's kind of emerged since we started.
And no Matthews in that game too. To be fair, no Matthews in that game.
Right. He's going to be in the mix for a couple every night. He's in the mix for a couple. Right. I'm encouraged. I like the record. I like where they are. We've got a trade freeze tonight at midnight Eastern. I expect something small with the Leafs, but I hope not. I hope they wait. Let's see, what the holidays bring. Don't overpay for somebody right now to get somebody in here before you got an 8-day freeze, right? The team is fine. You can lose 3 of the next 4 and you're still in a good spot. If a defenseman goes down, whatever. I wouldn't rush to make a move if the right move is there. I expect somebody maybe pulled out of the lineup tonight. I really do. I think Treliving is I think we're getting close. Yeah. There's guys out there that he well documented that he's attached to, and the Tanevs of the world, and I know Labushkin. You mentioned there's another one. There's some players that if he got the right deal for right now, and I'm sure there's conversations happening right now. So we'll see. I wouldn't rush, but depends on the player and depends on the assets that you're going to give up. But I think they're in a good spot. I really do.
So I'd be really surprised. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to go one step further. I'd say I'd be shocked if I saw something happen. And here's why. We know I'm critical of the team at times. I don't think that you can be too upset with the way that the kids who have been brought up have played overall. Lagesson, has he had games where you've been like, what are you doing? Absolutely. But on the whole, William Lagesson's played very well. Simon Benoit, when he's been up, when he's gotten into games, has there been adventures? Absolutely. But on the whole, for a 5th, 6th defenseman, you can work with that. I'm not telling you we're a Stanley Cup winning defensive team. But for December hockey, we're able to get by. So do I think?
Yeah, and that's my. But I still believe there's something going down.
Okay,
really,
yeah.
I hope not like you. I think, you know what, keep playing the kids. I still think, you keep moving guys around. I'm not opposed to, if Domi keeps playing the way he is, having Mitch and Domi together for a bit. I mean, they have some history. I have no problem trying that. Zero problem trying anything that you need to try at this point, to lock in some formulas and have some options. Because you know as well as I do, very rare that you go into a playoff here and everything just stays the same, right? You might win a couple of games and then all of a sudden, you get pumped 5 goose 2 nights in a row and nobody can score. They're going to mix it up. So start to take the data now and use, I may even, ride Marner and Domi right out of that game because they were good, right? They were good, but it's been fun to watch, right? And the other night, I'm not going to lie to you, I watched the first 2, and it's 5-0. I was like, I'm going to bed. So I was going to bed. I was done. It's like I'm not going to sit here and watch this, and But I think the main reason why I stayed up is I said, well, maybe they'll show some balls here, and somebody will go out there and take a run at somebody, and it'll be interesting. So I stuck around. And then they get a goal. Then they get another goal. I'm like, oh, you never know. And then it's in my head. Remember the comeback against Columbus in the playoffs, or that play-in round, right?
It was 3 goals in 5 minutes in the third period. That was a beautiful night.
Yeah, so I was thinking about that, and so I stayed down and watched it. And it was great. They lose in overtime. I wish, you can talk about 2 games last week. The Islander game, where they scored with 3 seconds left or something like that to tie it, and then lose in overtime or shootout, whatever it was, and then the same thing. So I'd like to see, and I mean, well documented. They're in extra time quite a bit, and their record is pretty good. But I think it needs to be, if you're going to get into extra time, you got to figure out how to, because in the playoffs, that extra time, that could be your series, right? If you can't figure it out.
Let's be honest though, John, that was our series. That's how we beat Tampa.
Yeah.
Right. Like if we're going to be honest about it, we could very easily have lost.
Oh, for sure.
The first round again last year. I'm not telling anybody anything they don't know. You get to overtime in the playoffs and it's a coin flip, right? A bad bounce, a puck hits a stick. You know what I mean? There's a billion things that can go on in an overtime game in the playoffs that if you win them, great. But if you lose them, it's, you can gain solace in the fact that, you know what, it was a bad play. It was somebody missed a read, puck bounced off stick the wrong way. If you know what, let's talk about something that may be a little uncomfortable. We've got Martin Jones up now. Young Wall. I think everybody on this particular panel, we all agree we like Wall for what Wall brings on a go forward basis. Right now we've got Samsonov, who I don't know if it's in his head, if he's on the Jack Campbell program right now or what his deal is. But Martin Jones has looked very steady. I'm very comfortable with Martin Jones. He was great in Seattle last year, took him to the playoffs. He was great in San Jose for years. I'm comfortable with Martin Jones. Does anybody wonder if maybe when Wall's ready to come back, if Jones holds the fort? Is Samsonov the odd man out?
Nolan, you go first.
What do you think, man?
I think he definitely could be because you could put him on waivers. Maybe he gets claimed, maybe he doesn't. But try to free up $3.5 million, and yeah, that'd be pretty good to have Jones and Wall both making $900K or less.
Again, and I'll repeat myself. I don't. Yeah, I mean, if you the two cheaper guys are the guys, great. You just need two guys that are healthy, and any of those two of those three guys, in my opinion, if they're healthy and in a good headspace going into the playoffs and have some confidence, they can do it. I don't feel anybody's got the leg up yet because we're not even to Christmas, right? What'll happen here is they're all going to get their opportunities between now and the second weekend in April. They're all going to get, all three of those guys are going to get multiple starts. They're going to get some hard starts and they're going to get some easy starts. And then they can, and then when you come into the deadline, then the management has to look at the data that they saw of those three goaltenders and say, well, are we comfortable? And if they're not, then you're going to look at a guy like Fleury. You're going to look at some other veterans. But Martin Jones is one of those guys, right? Martin Jones, as I said that last week, Martin Jones is one of those guys that they're going to be looking for at the deadline, right? So if he's already here and doesn't cost you an asset, and he wins more than he loses, and he always gives you a chance to win if you're playing the game the right way, then yeah, he'd probably be my guy because he's kind of been there, right?
And John, shout out to Tree Living for going out and getting him.
Oh, for
right?
Sure.
Like, and being able, the way the contract was worked, to be able to sneak him under waivers, to be able to bury him and be the guy that's there if you need him.
Well, that had nothing to do with the contract. When he went down, anybody could have claimed him.
Yeah, but apparently there's riders on the back end of his contract based on how many games he plays.
I see. Okay. So
the way that it worked. So remember and I don't think anybody really understood this at the time. Remember when he went down and Vasilevsky was hurt, and we were all convinced he was going to Tampa.
Yeah.
Tampa didn't claim him because of the back end of what his contract looked like. If he was going to play so many games, he was going to get, $850 or $950 in bonus after 10 games or whatever. Now we can swing that because of LTIR now, so it doesn't hit us that way.
Right.
Again, and believe me, we all know I've been a little critical of Tree Living signings. I got to give the guys flowers on this one. That was well done. That was a savvy move by a veteran GM to be able to do that. So props to him for making that call.
Speaking of GMs, what did everybody think? I'll go to you, Nolan, first, of Kyle Dubas' return to Toronto. How did he feel walking out of there that night? Because there would have been some dollar bills up on the board in the Pittsburgh locker room for.
Yeah, there were.
I promise you.
Yeah, for sure. I think he's probably pretty pissed at this team for hanging him out to dry like that. Just getting chanted.
They rolled over for sure. I saw some bite from Sidney there in the third, throwing punches, and you expect that from him because he's just a competitive human being that doesn't like to lose. But that's embarrassing on a Saturday night. You got how many, 8 or 10 or 12 Canadian kids in your lineup, but it's hockey night in Canada against the Leafs, and
no Matthews.
Yeah.
No TJ Brody.
Yeah.
And
Nyes,
Nyes, who he drafted,
the third goalie,
a breakout game against them.
Yeah. So one of the switch gears here.
Can I just jump in there, John? Though I think it needs to be said. Kyle Dubas, while he was here, was not the most forthcoming with media availability. It became a bit of an event to get him. And I noticed when we went back and we played them that first game in Pittsburgh, he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Didn't say a damn thing. And I thought, okay, fair enough. Maybe coming back to Toronto, I almost was of the opinion you have to at least give 5 or 10 minutes and address whatever. Now, Dubas isn't going to say anything because he never said anything.
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse, Bush League, absolute muffin move to not say anything. And listen, I get it. Pittsburgh is in a terrible spot right now. They're max capped. They're trying to do everything they can to hold on to the Crosby and the Malkin and the Letang, and they've added what's his name on the blue line, whose name I can't remember right now. Carlson. But let's be honest, they're a 5-player team with no depth. They're a disaster right now.
Carlson's got 18, 20 points, but I mean, he's a $10.5 million player.
But you're missing my point, John. I'm saying they're a 5-player team.
Absolutely. No, I'm with you 100%. And I'm glad he didn't bring Carlson here because he was trying.
Oh man, listen, Erik Karlsson's the least of our problem. But anyhow, that's a story for another day. My whole point here is I think Dubas, not showing up here. While I think it's a Bush League move, I think it's more about his team and where they're at, and him not wanting to have to answer questions about his team than his time here. That's my 2 cents on that.
So I'm going to get into a couple of things here, and I'll get your opinions on it when I'm done. And one of them starts in Pittsburgh. So I heard from pretty reliable source that Sullivan is on his way. And I kind of thought he was gone after that game because I'd heard it before. I think I texted it to you guys the other day. So I've also heard that there was a conversation with Patrick Waugh going to Pittsburgh, and now you guys I want to know what you think is more likely, but I've heard 2 reasons why it's not going to happen. One of them, and Mario brought this to the table because Mario and him obviously shared some Team Canada stuff and played their whole, because they were drafted in the same draft, 84. So Mario kind of threw it out there. If we're going to make a move, what about Patrick? Patrick wants to go to Pittsburgh. I think his ego would think, hey, I can make this work. So the 2 reasons why I heard it won't work were that 87 said, no, we don't need that kind of a coach here. Okay. Which I have a hard time believing. Because Sidney grew up a Montreal Canadiens fan. His dad was a goalie. His dad. So Troy Crosby and Patrick Waugh were both drafted in the 84 draft as goaltenders for the Montreal Canadiens. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that.
So Sidney's dad was in the same draft as Patrick. So they've known each other. He came home here and played senior hockey in Dartmouth, but and never pursued it. But he played in the Quebec Major Junior League as a goaltender. Anyway, so I find that hard to believe. The other theory was that Dubas wants to be the show. So he doesn't. He has a problem with Patrick Waugh because Patrick Waugh will be the guy. Similar to maybe somebody named Babcock, right? That was here. So it's maybe there's a little bit of a struggle going on there. And that to me is why Jacques Martin has been named the interim coach in Ottawa, because I think if Pittsburgh wasn't out there right now, Patrick would already be named head coach in Ottawa. That's what I believe. And then the other guy that Ottawa likes is the Marlies head coach, John Gruden, and they like him a lot. So while these dominoes fall here over the next couple of days, and I believe they will, either Sullivan gets fired, Waugh goes to Pittsburgh, or Sullivan may still get fired. Unnamed coach goes to Pittsburgh. I'm thinking Quenneville, but again, that comes to the same kind of persona, right? I think he's reinstated.
He's not.
No?
He's not. And listen, I'm highly opinionated in a lot of things, but this one I am so fundamentally opposed to. I don't think Joel Quenneville should ever be allowed, never mind near an NHL arena. I don't think he should be allowed near any arena.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but you know how the business works, right?
Listen, I understand, but I also understand now that with social media, and listen, social media is toxic on so many levels. But I think social media here does something positive where I truly believe the backlash from corporations and fans combined prevents Joel Quenneville from being a viable option. And please understand what I'm saying. I'm not saying Joel Quenneville is not a fantastic coach. I think he is. I think he's a brilliant coach. I think if you look at his history and his track record, it says he is an excellent coach, understands the game, knows how to play it, knows how to motivate, all of that good stuff. I just think he's a terrible person based on what he did, and I don't want to have anything to do with him.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you. He's got, there's got to be repercussions. He was in a position that he could have helped the kid,
and he chose. And John, you know what? I can even get to the point where at a professional level, I can even get to the point at a professional level where I can say, okay, not what I would like to do or what I would hope would happen, but I can almost get there. He knew what took place, and he allowed that coach to go back into Chicago minor hockey associations and exploit kids. And I'm sorry, man, to me, it's a cardinal sin. You jeopardized the brand, you jeopardized children, and you put all of that so you could win. I'm not down with that. He's got to go.
Yeah, I don't. Another name that came up in the Pittsburgh situation. So I think it's Waugh or Gruden in Ottawa, but it could be Jacques Martin too, right? But he's 70-something years old. I don't know. What is he?
71. He's not there long term.
Yeah, but does he? Does
but we don't like
Jacques for this year if the right guy doesn't come up? Maybe, right? He's got
Jacques Martin is a placeholder, right?
Yeah,
he's a placeholder.
But the other guy that is interesting to me in Pittsburgh is Gabby Boudreau. Now, Boudreau has had a tremendous amount of regular season success.
Yeah,
right? Hasn't really been able to get it done in the playoffs. Pittsburgh is in a position where they need to figure out the regular season or they're not going to be in the playoffs. They've got veterans that could lead them, you know what I mean? You don't need a winning coach with this group in the playoffs to go in. Sidney Crosby's going to lead you. If you get into the dance and you're healthy and they make the right moves, they can be there. He's still that good. He's actually as good right now as he's been in the last 8 years.
Listen, Sidney Crosby, if we're ever going to give somebody their flowers while they're still playing, that guy, with what he's able to do, and I think a lot of us need to take a step back when we look at Crosby. And yes, Malkin's been there. They haven't always played together, him and Malkin. You know what I mean? If you look at the guys that Sidney Crosby's played with, the millionaires that Sidney Crosby has made throughout the NHL is staggering, absolutely staggering. And it really is truly a testimony to how good Sidney Crosby really is. And I think for all of us who have, Nolan, you've seen Sidney come up the whole time and seen him play. John and I have seen him play his entire career from the time he was playing, World Juniors at 15, and he was special.
I knew him when he was 5.
I mean, you've got a little bit of a.
And he was one of those kids, and I've taught hundreds of thousands of kids over the years, and people say, "Well, is there any that you knew?" And I went, "Him, yeah, absolutely." He just worked harder than everybody, and he was better than everybody, and he didn't like to lose at anything, and he put in the time, and he just had that. He was going to be a hockey player. The other one was David Boland. Was another one that ended up in winning a couple cups in Chicago or a Memorial Cup and a World Junior, and he was another one that just had that. It's something. There's something about him that just was I'm gonna make it. Doesn't matter here. I'm going to make it. Right.
let me ask you this, because
Yeah.
I was listening to you on Pittsburgh,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to lie to you. I've got a bit of a different opinion on Pittsburgh. I'm of the belief that Steve Sullivan is not in any danger at all.
Mike
Sullivan is not in. Steve Sullivan. I was thinking about the Leafs now.
Yeah.
Mike's. I don't see him in any danger at all. I really don't. And here's why. When they were on the Kyle Dubas plan and hunting him down, Sullivan was right there with ownership, involved in selecting who was coming in. Sullivan's got a special kind of cachet with that organization, and I don't see, regardless of whether or not he's making $7 million a year to be the general manager, I don't see him coming in and wiping him out in year one. I'm not saying it's not ever going to happen. I just don't see it based on the history of Mike or of Sullivan there with that franchise. I don't see it. I also don't see it because of the fact that Sullivan and Crosby are like this. And I don't care who the general manager is. If Sidney Crosby wants Sullivan as the head coach, I guarantee you Sidney Crosby gets who Sidney Crosby wants.
Well, you're dealing with a different animal here in Dubas, and Dubas wouldn't have taken that job if he didn't have carte blanche, right? He's saying, because why did he leave Toronto? Because he didn't have carte blanche. He's not taking that job if he's got to report to Sidney Crosby.
Would he be the first guy to take a job under the auspice that he thought he had something and then got in there and found out maybe not so much?
Yeah, but you've got this team that's 22nd overall in the league.
I'm just saying. It wouldn't be the first time it's happened.
Wild card standings in the East. If at this point you think a coaching change is going to put them on an 8-2 heater and get them back in the mix, you're going to do it, right? It wasn't his hire. He doesn't have any. You know what I mean? I think Sullivan's a great coach. I think he'll be gone as soon as he gets fired. Somebody's going to fire their coach to get him. He's had success. He's
Berube will get another job, no problem.
Absolutely.
Right?
He just won a cup. He might be in the mix in Ottawa. He might be in the mix in Pittsburgh. Right? There's a lot of balls in the air right now. But I think Sullivan's in big trouble. I really do. We'll see.
Yeah, it'll be
a lot of times right now that a lot of teams, what they'll do, there's no embargo for firing a coach like there is for the trade embargo over the holidays. But it's an unwritten thing that general managers around the league and stuff, because there's families involved, right? Every one of these head coaches and or assistant coaches or whatever has families, and they're there's logistics bringing them in, and do we go home for Christmas? How much time do we have off? Blah blah. So they're not gonna pull the pin on him. I don't think now before the break's over, the 28th, whenever the embargo. But he's they lose 2 or 3 in a row, he's out. He's out.
Yeah, I also think because Pittsburgh's an older team. Obviously, it's kind of like last run. They don't have time to wait it out. Give them a chance. It's cover bust really for them.
Okay, but does anybody believe? And I'm being sincere here. Does anybody believe that this Pittsburgh team, as it's constructed now, is going to be better? Like they're going to get secondary scoring from a third line because we've changed the coach? I don't know.
It could be a different system for sure. That's possible. That's why they change coaches, right? A lot of good coaches get fired because.
Hey, listen, I've been advocating for a coaching change for 4 years and nothing's happened. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
But I digress.
I think the Penguins need help with the power play, obviously.
Which is scary when you think about the top heavy players that they have, right? Yeah. Okay, so let's get back to the Leafs here.
Rangers tonight, Buffalo Thursday, and Columbus in Columbus on Saturday. What do you guys think?
No, go for it, bud.
I like the Rangers are a good hockey club. That's the best club out of those three. I think they match up well. I think Matthews is going to come back and have a big night. He just had the flu. It was smart to keep him out. It would have been one of those things if it was a playoff game, he would have been in. But keep him away from the guys, keep them home for 48 hours and let them drink lots of fluids. And then you can still go out and you pump them 7-zip. And now you got your best player coming back. I mean, he's been he's been the MVP in the league, in my opinion. I mean, just not just the amount of goals that he's scoring and it's like whenever the puck touches, it's like 2 years ago, right? When the puck's on his stick, something's going to happen. Doesn't matter who he's playing with.
John, he's got to have hit 10 goalposts already this year.
He hit, the night he had over 20. He hit 2.
Yeah, right? Like he could easily get 35 goals right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think he's well north of 60 if he stays healthy. It doesn't matter who he plays with, right? He's scoring with Marner.
Isn't that
matter. His power play, So you got him coming back tonight. I think he's going to be, excited to get after it. I think he's going to have a couple for sure. And I think they match up well against New York. I really do. Buffalo always scares me. It just does. I don't care whether Buffalo's a shitty last place club like they did. It's like Ottawa or Montreal. You're always going to have a good game, right? So but it's an opportunity for them to maybe shed some of those demons. And then Columbus, I think they smash. I really do. I think they even though Columbus got the 2 points the other night, they took a little bit of their will away. It's like, okay, we thought we were a pretty good team when we had Toronto 5-0, then they score 5 unanswered in the third, and we have to scrap our way to another point or get lucky in overtime. That's how I see it playing out. So let's say 5 out of 6 points.
Nolan, what do you think?
I was gonna say 5 out of 6 too. Yeah.
Okay.
I think 2 wins and overtime loss. Yeah.
To Buffalo, the loss.
Either tonight against the Rangers or Buffalo. Not set on either one of them, but
yeah.
Okay, I not surprisingly, I'm gonna go 3 out of 6. I think we lose tonight in overtime. I think we lose to Buffalo, and I think we spank Columbus. Only be like John. I think you said it very well. Buffalo. It doesn't matter if Buffalo is the last place team in the league.
No.
Short story. I bought my dad when he was alive. I bought him tickets one year, right against the glass, first row. It was January the first game. We were playing Buffalo, and him and my sister went to the game. I couldn't go for work or whatever, and so him and my sister went down, and they're sitting first row in the glass. The Leafs got pumped that game, 8-0, and all I remember is my dad telling me the story of the Boston fans going, or the Buffalo fans going, at like 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We won 6, and then they get the 6. Okay, we won 7, and it didn't matter.
What year would this been approximately?
What year?
Yeah.
So
it's at the new rink. At the new rink or in Buffalo?
Yeah, no, it was at the new rink. It wasn't at the Odd. It was at the new rink.
Yeah.
But it's maybe 03, 04, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And I just remember my dad saying, I've never been to a place where I've been so ashamed to wear a Leaf jersey in my life. It was just like we just took a beating. And he said, like, it was a snowstorm too, and it took him like 4 hours to get there. Anyways, great story from my dad. But
for sure.
You know what? Long story short is Buffalo always plays us hard. It doesn't seem to matter. Rangers are great. Listen, I love Cale Makar as a defenseman. I don't know that there's many players I love more in the league though than Jacob Trouba. Jacob Trouba is something special on defense. I love the way he plays hockey. For me, if I could have a defenseman that's not Nate Hedman or Makar, I'm probably taking Trouba.
Yeah, he's valuable out there. You certainly have your head up when you go to his side.
I love the way he plays.
Yeah, what if they screwed up letting him go?
You know what? So before we get out of here, I just want to. I think there's merit because we talked earlier about we thought about trades incoming and things that are on the horizon, and I thought it would behoove us to just take a look at kind of maybe what's possibly coming below us if we don't make moves. And I'm not saying we shouldn't make moves, but what's coming? Like, what do we have in the Marley system right now that is possible to come up? We've seen Lagesson come up, and he's impressed. From a defensive standpoint, because for me, I've been kind of critical on the defense. Topi Nieminen, he started the season with us, got sent down. He looked lost. If we're being honest, he looked lost in the first few games he did play with us this year. Since he's been down in the minors, though, I mean, he's put up some really solid numbers. I mean, he's got 5 goals, 15 points in 16 games. I know, and I'm not telling you anything, John, you're probably hearing the same thing. Nolan, I'm sure you're probably hearing the same thing. In any trade talks, people want Topi Nieminen, right? He's a high end, high leverage guy that people seem to like. Would you guys be of the mindset that you think, somebody like Chris Tanev, somebody like Labushkin coming in, is it worth maybe losing somebody like Nieminen, a first-round pick, who looks like he's starting to come into his own at the AHL level? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you want to win, right? And you're not going to get a good player that's going to help you if you don't give anything in return. Those days are gone. Everybody's got a buck on everybody. The Cliff Fletcher trade in 90, 92, 93 will never happen again, right? He fleeced them. He knew the players. He knew who was coming and who was going. He knew everything about them, and now everybody knows everything.
That Rick Wamsley made that deal. I don't care what anybody says.
It's a different animal now. You have to pay for quality, and if you want to bring in, unfortunately, guys like that are going to be in the mix. But that's the price you pay, right? It's a business, and I'm not going to give up. I have a non-playoff team, probably Calgary, unless they turn it around. But I'm not going to give up a player to another Canadian contending team that my old boss happens to run. Like, there's a lot of synergy to that 93 trade here, right?
Kid yourself for sure. Yeah.
So Conroy's going to get whatever it's worth, or his people around him are going to tell him, do not do this. Do not do this. Or trade. Look. Toronto probably had a better package on the deal for the other kid, and they Toronto would have given more for that kid than a third and a fifth or whatever.
Oh, was Zadorov, you mean?
Yeah, and so that instead of moving him to Toronto for maybe the same package, they move him to a divisional rival where they got to see him 4 or 5 times.
So my understanding, and listen, I could be wrong, but from my understanding of the deal was both teams offered a third for him, and Vancouver offered the fifth as a sweetener, and the Leafs wouldn't go there. That's my understanding of it, and that's why the deal got made.
I don't buy that because I think he does. I think it was more of, maybe I don't think they circled back and said Vancouver's giving us a third and a fifth. If you match it, we can go, right?
No, I apologize. That's not what I'm saying. The Leafs also, because I want to be clear, in the Leafs deal, the Leafs did not make an offer, to my understanding of it, and if you guys have heard something different, tell me. But to my understanding, the Leafs did not make an offer for just Zadorov. The Leafs wanted Tanev and Zadorov together in a package. And with what they were offering, which I had heard was a second, a third, and was it a Bruzy? I think Nick Bruzy was what I had heard. So it was a Bruzy, a second, and a third for both, but they wanted 50% retained.
Right.
And Vancouver was not having it.
Yeah.
And so the deal, the two deals that they were sitting with were the Leafs and Vancouver. And they went to Vancouver and said, what else can you give us? They went with the fifth and they pulled the trigger. That was my.
Yeah, but it doesn't work like that, though, John. It doesn't work like that.
That's my understanding of how it went down.
Don't totally agree that is part of the case, and it makes sense. But a trade's not. If I'm a GM and I'm talking to you and I'm talking to you about the same player, or group of players, or a variation, and Nolan says, "I'll give you a third and a fifth." I'm calling you, John. I'm saying, not going to tell you who, but I have another team that's giving me a third and a fifth. You give me a third and a fourth, and you got him. That's how it works. He's not gonna go, oh yeah, we'll take the third and fifth, because Toronto liked that player a lot.
Yeah, but here's the thing: the Leafs weren't interested in just Zadorov. That's the difference.
Oh, I think they were.
No, I don't think so. I think if the Leafs were interested in just Zadorov, that deal would have been made. I don't think they were.
Yeah, but they're still talking about Tanev, so I think they were, because depending on where Calgary goes here, they're all going to be available. Everybody's available.
So
right?
Listen, here's a great question then, because I'm not sure who I would rather have. If I would rather have Tanev or I'd rather have Zadorov. Like, if I'm being honest, I don't know that I wouldn't prefer to have a bigger, nastier version of Zadorov in front of the net playing as a 5-6 than a Tanev who might be great in the room, a little bit smaller and plays more of a finesse game. I don't know. That's just me.
I wouldn't call Tanev finesse.
No, but
he's a gritty guy too.
He's
they
more
both bring different things to the table for sure. They both bring good qualities, and they both bring some liability. I understand why Tree would want to get them both, but he would have been he's going to be in on any heavy playing physical defenseman that's left or right shot.
That's what we need. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I think, yeah. I mean, who knows? But I'd be shocked if he wasn't in on that till the end, and maybe he thought it was overpaying, and good on him. I mean, they're still doing well, right? There's going to be a lot of teams. If you look, I'm just gonna before we wrap up here, just want to look at teams that are out of it and who potentially could be.
So listen, but before we go there, I just want to touch while we're on the Marlies kick.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
What you know what? Because listen, with Reeves out, whether he's on LTIR or who knows what's going on, it did not look good. It looked like his ankle was toast going in there. We got Alex. Listen, Alex Steeves, I have liked for 2 years. Every time he comes up, he doesn't really get the ice time. And so I don't know if it's a coaching thing, if maybe Keefe's not big on Steeves and doesn't want to give him the shot, or what the deal is. He's leading the Marlies in scoring right now. He's looked great at that level. He's almost at the point now where he's done everything he can do at the AHL level. And is he going to get the shot? I don't know what the answer is there. The other guy who and this is just me, and I'm spitballing here, and you guys can tell me I'm out to lunch. Kiefer Bellows is a guy who I really wonder about. Draft pick. I think he was draft pick of the Islanders.
First rounder.
Played, just never, for whatever reason, didn't work out in the Island. He signed on a PTO with the Leafs. Been assigned to the Marlies. 16 games. He's got 8 goals, 17 points. He's a point-a-game player. I don't know if it's a mirage. I don't know.
A little bit.
And I'll be honest, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you I'm watching a ton of Marlies games and can tell you how he's playing. I'm just looking at the stats, and I'm looking at his pedigree. And first-round picks usually get more cachet. There's a little bit something. There's a reason they went in the first round. And he's starting to look like he's kind of coming into his own based on the results with the Marlies. What do you guys think? Like, do we think that Kiefer Bellows could be a guy? I mean, he's on a PTO, and so he would have to be signed to a formal contract. before he can come on, which means we would have to move somebody else out to get off that 50. I think it's 50 contracts are allowed
I
to
think
hold.
they're under right now. I think they're at 49.
You think we're at 49? Okay, so then in theory they could sign him
Yeah.
if they wanted to.
They have to do it by tonight.
So I don't know.
You know what? I'll give you my
Bellows,
report on him. So Kiefer Bellows, and he's Brian's son, right? The former NHLer, played for
first
Minnesota.
overall pick, Johnny. First overall pick.
Good career. So Kiefer kind of grew up in the Minnesota area. Played some played U.S. National Development Team program. Blah 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 blah. Huge pedigree, like you said, John. Very very skilled guy. Point producing. I've heard that when you get to the NHL level, there's a sense of entitlement.
Okay.
I'm a first rounder, that kind of thing. I expect to make the team, blah, 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 blah.
Little Taylor Hall in him.
I think there was a work ethic issue. There was a compete issue. And he basically played his way out of the organization. Okay. So now he goes home, tail between his legs. Pretty sure, daddy or the agent or somebody knew somebody within Toronto and said, look, you know what? Obviously he's, he can still play. Or maybe they reached out to him. I don't know. But, a kid like that would be very well connected. And then they basically said to him, okay, here's our concerns, right? You didn't work in practice. You kind of, your body language maybe wasn't the best, when you weren't getting the ice that you think you deserve, blah, 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 blah. There could be more. I have no idea.
Learn how to be a pro?
Yeah, learn how to be a pro. And then they sent him to Toronto. The Marlies and the Leafs are kind of intertwined. They do, the systems are the same and all kinds of different little nuances that, they're around each other. Let's say that.
Yeah.
So I think he's responded. He's responded in a positive way, but I don't think he's convinced anybody yet, or they'd have him signed. But you texted earlier. I don't think somebody could come in. Buffalo Sabres could roll up right now and call, Treliving and say, hey, you know what? What are you doing with Bellows? We want to sign him. Now that's when Toronto has to sign him.
Yeah, then you got to make a claim on him. Okay. Yeah. Now here's something, and I'm hearing you talk, and I'm just thinking out loud. Only because this has been the Leafs experience. Remember, we had Josh Hosang 2 years ago, and I'm starting to wonder. Like, do you think there was something maybe with the Islanders and how they were developing young talent?
I don't.
You got Bellows, and then you got Host, and I'm just saying because they both come.
I don't. I think.
Okay.
I just from what I know, I think it's both these kids. I think maybe we're getting some bad advice at different times from somebody in their circle. That's what I've heard. I mean, the whole
fair enough. I just thought it was
kid played in Niagara in the O, and he played for a young man named Billy Burke, and Joey Burke was the GM there at the time, and I coached both of them. So the head coach in Niagara and the GM in Niagara, brothers. I coached Billy, and then I did a lot of work with Joey, skill wise. But and Billy spoke highly of Josh. He just kind of got lost, said the couple wrong things in training camp, and didn't buy into what was going on. And if he was in the Islanders, then don't forget who's coming in there, Lou. Lou Lamoriello comes in there.
No nonsense, right? Like you're playing by our rules or you're not playing.
Well, the defenseman that just got traded there had to shave his beard. He's had a beard for 5 years, and he gets traded in and gone, right? So anyway, but I hope he gets a shot. But he's again, like Hosang spent a couple years in the Marlies, and he got a, and he still didn't play as well on the team,
No, and listen, and fair enough. I was just it occurred to me while we were talking that both were with the Islanders, and I kind of thought it's unusual that you see two high picks from that spot in the same spot ending up here. Like, you know what I mean? Maybe there was something to it, but at the same point in time, you're not going to surprise me that young kids were entitled and thought they deserved everything. You know what I mean? That's not going to surprise me either.
Yeah, I mean, your first round pick, you're going to get your opportunities.
Yeah, you're
but
going to get multiple opportunities, John.
Getting back to a guy like Steve's, and I'll give you my theory on that.
I'm interested.
For every guy that plays in the NHL ever, there's 5 guys that could have, but they had the skill level, or they could fight as good, or they had to compete, or
right spot at the right time.
Size, drafted to the right junior team, got to learn how to be a better, there's so many variables. Okay. Now, a big variable that nobody talks about is, and you touched on it earlier when you said, when Steve's came up, he's not getting the ice time that, maybe Keefe didn't like him or whatever. No, I think it's more of, if you want to play in the league and you're a guy that's getting a call up and you get 4 minutes, you better make sure you do something in those 4 minutes.
Fair.
Right? Because then tomorrow you're going to get 5. And if you do something real good in those 5, that might go to 8. And those are the guys that stay in the NHL. Those are the guys that don't get a shift in the first or second and go out in the third and create a turnover that ties the game up, or fight somebody, or big hit that changes the momentum of the game, or win a draw, or, whatever. All those little things. It doesn't have to be on the stat sheet, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, very fair.
Go out there and make a difference every shift and make the coach want to put you on, right? I always say coaches are in the business of winning. They don't give a shit if they hate you or like you, or, think you're the biggest piece of shit in the world. If you're going to help them win a hockey game, they're going to put you out there. They're going to put your best players that you feel at the time are going to help you succeed on the ice. There's no personal stuff. It's just, it's too much of a fine line between winning and losing these days, right? Bad teams can beat good teams on any given night. Gone are the days in the, the 70s and the 80s when Montreal would be 80-2 or whatever. And you knew they're going to hammer every single team all year. So anyway, well, that was good. So I'm going to be on the road. So I'm going to be in Saskatchewan next week. So we're flying.
Oh, with Wendell Clark. Are you heading to Kelvington?
No, I'm going to Saskatoon, but I have a meeting scheduled with a friend of mine that he actually is one of the owners of Wendell Clark's in Saskatoon. So I'm sure we may have an adult beverage there at one point of the trip, but I'll come in. I'll bring my my studio in a box and bring it with me, and we'll go Tuesday. What's Tuesday? Is that the 1st? Or no, the 23rd, 20.
I don't even know.
It's Boxing Day, actually. You know Boxing Day. We're gonna have to take a week off because we've got an event that. Let's go back at it and I'll still be in Saskatchewan. Let's go back at it on the 2nd. We'll take 2 weeks.
That sounds good.
Let some people enjoy their holidays.
Listen, that sounds good.
Sorry?
You good with that?
Yep. Sounds good.
Yeah. You're growing that stash out. I thought we had Austin Matthews on tonight.
I said that to him when we came on tonight. I said he looks like Puff Daddy over there with it growing.
I had to put my glasses on. I thought Austin.
No, I think it's coming off soon.
All right. Well, thanks, folks. Hey, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate.
Thanks for watching.
Enjoy your family and really, take advantage of family time, because it's sometimes few and far between.
Hey, and listen, and just before we go out, everybody remember there was a lot of hockey families this year who dealt with a lot of difficult things, and the game is fantastic. Remember, pray for those families, especially that young family in Montreal who was going to have a rough Christmas, and that whole team who's dealing with a lot of things right now. Think about them. Merry Christmas to everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Last word, Nolan?
Have a good night.
Go Leafs, go!
Go Leafs, go.